fucking do it right this time.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back for another college football conference preview. This week we got the Big Ten Conference, and it's not 10 anymore. It's more like 20. The Big 20, whatever,
Close.
right? Mm-hmm. Pretty much the Big Ten plus the Pac-12. So we're back with Rhett. He's back. Hey yo, what's up?
Hey guys.
The guy, the man, the myth, the legend. So we're going to continue the series. We got a Big Ten this today. So let's get right into it. First team, Illinois. Yep. So the over-under is set at 5.5. Last year they finished the season 5-7. Luke Altmaier is returning at quarterback for them. The issue with this team, they got to replace top talent on offense and defense. They lost big guys through the draft and through the transfer portal, like Jason Newton. He went to the league. I think he got drafted by the Commanders. Not too sure. I'll fact check that later. And bowl eligibility will be tough with their schedule. I mean, if you take a look at their non-conference game, they're going to have to play Kansas. That's going to be a tough Kansas team. But other than that, I mean, their non-conference isn't really that tricky. I mean, they got Eastern Illinois, cake. Central Michigan, cake. But then you get into the conference games, you got teams like Michigan, Oregon, Nebraska, Penn State. And, yeah, I mean, and they got some easier teams, lighter teams on there. But we'll get to those teams later. So, the schedule-wise, it's going to be tricky for them to get bowl eligible. We'll see. They don't have the highest expectations. What do you think, Brett?
The Fighting Illini are going to have a rough season ahead of them. Luke Altmaier, he's not a young quarterback anymore. I think this is his fourth year. I think second year starting. He was at Ole Miss behind Matt Corral for a while. And the one game he played at Ole Miss was the bowl game against Baylor. I think it was the Sugar Bowl, and he got fucking clapped. Last year was a struggle for him. He had some shining moments and then looked like a mediocre college football player. We need him to step up this year for Illinois to have any chance at glory. They have the 25th strength of schedule in the entire FBS. That's a pretty tough hill to climb. They had the third ranked offense last year, which I thought was surprising. I guess Luke Altmaier was pretty good last year.
Yeah.
The record didn't show for it, but I guess they did all right last year. Their defense really needs to step up if they have any chance of doing anything well this year. And it shows in their transfer portal pickings. They have a cornerback from Ohio who played, Torrey Cox. They have another corner from Texas, Terrence Brooks. And then they have some D linemen that they picked up. So, 5 wins seems right. But I don't know. We'll see if Luke Altmaier progresses this year.
Yeah, that's definitely like the key right there. He's definitely the key to the success for this team. If he is able to get that offense going up and running again, I can see them making bowl eligibility, but again, it's gonna be tough. Moving on, we got Indiana. Their over/under line is set at 5.5. Last year they finished the season 3-9. What a season! What a season, boys. Interesting thing about this team, they have Ohio transfer, not the state, but Ohio. Curtis Rourke. He's gonna be their QB1 this year. Ohio, they had a good team last year, but mostly because of that defense. They brought in a bunch of defensive talents through the transfer portal, and their non-conference schedule is it's pretty easy. Yeah, they got a pretty easy one. They played teams like FIU, trash, Western Illinois, Charlotte.
Go Panthers.
Yeah. But the question here is, are they ready for the Big Ten teams? We don't know. The only chance they got of being bowl eligible is being those mid-tier teams like maybe Northwestern, Maryland, and maybe even Purdue. So they do got some big dogs in there, like in Michigan, Ohio State, and we'll see if Nebraska is going to be considered a big dog. I mean, they got some high expectations, but we'll see. And we'll get to that team later on. But this Indiana team, they definitely made some moves. So it looks like it'll be a different team than it was in that 3-9 season last year. And Vegas definitely sees an improvement this year for them.
You know why I'm very curious about this team this year?
Why?
Because the head coach from James Madison, Kurt Signetti, is now the head coach at Indiana. And if you look at Indiana's transfer portal activity this year, 75% of their transfer ins are from JMU. Now, this may not seem significant to you, but their transfer ranking in the Big Ten was 7, which is pretty solid when you consider their recruiting class was 16th in the conference.
Yeah.
So they brought in they brought in pretty much the whole entire James Madison team alongside Curtis Rourke. Is that who you said? Yeah, Curtis Rourke. He's very good. He's a very good quarterback. He didn't play in the bowl game last year, and I thought they were going to suck because of it. And Ohio absolutely boat raced Georgia Southern. I won't forget that because I had Georgia Southern for like 24. But this is essentially the Fighting James Madison Monarchs in the Big Ten. So if we were curious how good how well James Madison could compete at the Power 5 level, we're going to see it this year with Indiana.
Next team, we got the one, the only Iowa. What's his name? Hawkeyes? Are they the Hawkeyes?
They are the Hawkeyes.
The Iowa Jeremy Renners. Vegas has their line set at over under 7.5 wins. Pretty low in my opinion, because last year they finished 10-4, and they had one of the worst offenses ever, but one of the best defenses. Now, when you look at this team, this offense has to improve. There's no way this offense, like a bad offense, would be an improvement from last year. So this offense will have to improve. They return defensive talents, and they have a manageable schedule. So this Iowa team, they can make some noise again. We'll see.
Wow.
They they play Illinois State. They play Iowa State. They play Troy. Those are their non-conference game. And then the only tough Big Ten team I see on their schedule is Ohio State. You got Washington there, but I don't know what Washington's like. And you got Nebraska and Wisconsin. So I think it's a very manageable schedule here. So we'll see what Iowa does. What you got?
Wow. You are very high on the Hawkeyes this year. No, not really high, but a lot higher than I am on them. They are the Clemson of the Big Ten. They just don't exist in the transfer portal. They are in last place by a far margin within the Big Ten conference. I think they picked up 4 players this year. Now, are those 4 players potentially the best players in college football? Maybe. I didn't take a deep dive into their recruiting class either. They have 19 returning starters. That is amongst the most in FBS, in all of college football. They have Cade McNamara as their quarterback this year, if you remember. He was the starting quarterback for Michigan, for 3 years. Yeah. Until he lost his job. So they have a competent quarterback, and they have a new offensive coordinator. That should bring optimism to the fan base of Iowa Hawkeyes. And it brings optimism to you, apparently, because you have them winning the Natty this year.
Who
They
said
do
Natty?
have one of the... They have one of the lowest strength of schedules in the conference, so I will give you that. It just depends on whether that offense gets better. They had the worst offense of all of college football last year. It's verifiable. You can look it up on ESPN, any fucking website you want to look up their stats on. They are the lowest by quite a margin.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So 7 wins sounds about right to me, honestly. I think the Big Ten has taken a huge step up in competition, especially with Nebraska and Wisconsin, the 2 teams you mentioned as manageable games. I think they're going to lose those games this year. But, Iowa, they'll make a bowl game this year.
Yeah. All right. Moving on, we got Maryland. We got the Terrapins. Their over-under line is set at 6.5 wins, which is lower than last year. They did finish the season 8-5. They had a tag of Iloa, and he's gone.
Oh.
So,
he is.
And he was the lifeline of that offense. But now, they got NC State transfer MJ Morris. He's going to be there. He's going to be there
Yes, sir.
here for Talia. So we'll see how he does there. Is he able to maintain that same pace and high-powering offense that he was able to? Probably not. We'll see. But again, this team, they do have concerns in the O-line. They have 5 new starters on the offensive line. And they also have concerns in the secondary. They could potentially start 6-0 looking at their schedule, but the back end of the schedule is going to be pretty tough. So just taking a quick look at the schedule, they got UConn, a basketball school. They got Michigan State, a basketball school. They got Virginia, a basketball school. They got Villanova, a basketball school.
Oh, Jesus.
I don't know if I'm looking at the right schedule. Is this a basketball school schedule? So, if they were playing basketball, they're screwed. But yeah, this is football. And if you look at the back half of the schedule, they got to play like Oregon, Iowa, Penn State, and USC. So,
Oof.
I don't have much expectations for Maryland. I can definitely see them in the middle of the pack here.
Oof. Yeah. Talia Tagovailoa. Is he in the NFL? Did he get picked up?
He might have been. He probably wasn't undrafted free agent.
Okay. Well, if he's on a team, good luck to him riding the bench. He had a good collegiate career. 6 years is a little too long, though, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But with COVID, that's just, when the opportunity is given to you, you might as well take it. This team is my dark horse to be last in the Big Ten.
All right.
I don't see a lot of people saying Maryland as a rough look this year. I don't like them at all this year, and it's mainly because they're transfer portal. They lost a lot of 4-stars, and this is 4-star transfer rankings, not recruiting ranks.
Yeah.
They lost quite a few 4-stars this year. And they're on the defensive side. They lost Ramon Brown, who was a very good running back for them last year. It's not looking good for them, especially with Talia gone. I don't know about their leadership this year. They pretty much rode the coattails of Talia and their wide receiver core last year. And I don't think they have many of those people left because they were an old group. So, yeah, Maryland, I don't have much to say about them besides this might be a rough year.
All right, and just to fact check myself, he did go undrafted, but good news, he might be starting for the Canadian League. So, give it up for Talia. Let's go. That's a win for the Tagovailoas.
Good for him.
Another professional quarterback.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Building on that legacy.
On the legacy. Moving on, we got Michigan. The reigning college football champions, their line.
Defending.
The one, the only, Michigan Wolverines, Mr. Brightside, over under 9.5, which comes a little bit surprised after such a good season, but not well. If you think about it, not really. Last year they finished undefeated, 15-0. They did lose Jim Harbaugh. They did lose J.J. McCarthy. Lost a bunch of talents. They're still deciding who their quarterback is going to be. So between Alex Orji, don't demonetize me, Davis Warren, and some other names are thrown in there. They got potential first-round talent still in Will Johnson, Kenneth Grant, and Mason Graham. They brought in secondary help from the portal, but so they're gonna be like one of the top dogs for sure. But they do got like a pretty, like, I don't want to say difficult, but they play some good teams in their schedule. They play Texas week 2. Thankfully, that's gonna be at home. They play Oregon. That's also going to be at home. But then they go out to Ohio State. So that's 3 tough games. IO. For the rest schedule, I think it's going to be pretty fine for them. I mean, but those 3-4 games, it might be a little tough. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with Michigan. Those are the key games for this team. But I can see why the line's set at 9.5.
Matt, they didn't just lose a few people.
They lost everyone.
They lost their whole freaking team. I mean, they have 6 starters remaining. Who knows how good those starters were? I mean, some of them are going to be on the O-line, most on the D-line as well. I mean, no impact positions they're really retained any players from.
Will Johnson.
Just like, who?
Will Johnson.
They have probably the best corner in the Big Ten. I don't know, man. Their offense was great last year. Their defense was elite. They have a pretty tough strength of schedule, set at 17 in the nation. I think it's going to be Alex Orji, not, his last name is Orji. I think he's going to start.
Legendary last name.
I believe he's gonna start, and those jersey sales are gonna go through the roof.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care if it's ORJI. We're gonna change it to ORGY.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we're gonna change it to.
That's a 50-0 name right there.
It is. I think so too. They lost Jim Harbaugh. I don't know how much of an impact that's gonna be, given they went 5-0 without him last year. Now, did they play trash cans? Yes, but the one win was against the almighty Ohio State Buckeyes, and they beat them. This team's going to look very different this year, but I think they're going to be able to hold on to that elite pedigree for one more year until it goes downhill. I think they'll end up top 4.
Yeah. I'd say that's a good range for them. So, yeah, there goes the Wolverines. Next, we got the Sparties. Michigan State Sparties. Over under, line set as 4.5. Oof. Last year they finished 4-8. Oof. Disastrous season. Oof. Lost the coach. Some controversy there. Most of the team left. Jonathan Smith is going to be the new coach. They have former Oregon State quarterback. He joins the mix. And, yeah, a lot of players left.
What's his name? What's his name?
Aiden Chili's.
Come on.
Aiden Childs. It's Aiden Childs. All right.
Aiden Chiles.
Aiden Chiles. Aiden Childs. Adon Chalas. So, he joins the team. So, I don't know how much that's going to help, but this team, I mean, the 4 wins, I mean, they play FAU, a basketball school, now. Prairie View A&M, never heard of her. Got Boston College, and then maybe they upset one of the Big Ten teams. Maybe Purdue, who knows? It's going to be a long season for Michigan State. But, yeah, better luck next year.
You're telling me you never heard of Prairie View A&M?
Have you?
That's crazy, man. Historically black college. They ruled in the 90s. You need to touch up on your Prairie View, what do we call it? And I'm going to stop you right there before we go down a rabbit hole. Michigan State, funny enough, had the 4th ranked transfer portal ranking. Whoops, that was redundant. Sorry. In the Big Ten. Their recruiting class was trash. They have 13 returning starters. Like you said, turmoil in the front office this year. I don't even know if college football teams have a front office, but there was turmoil.
The athletic director.
Their head coach is gone. Their athletic director sucked. There's just a lot of shit going on with Michigan State behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I hope East Lansing can step it up this year. They have Aiden Chiles.
Mm-hmm.
He, I'm going to quote collegefootballnetwork.com. They have a lot of good stats, and they do a really good job. They have Aiden Chiles as the 6th best QB in the Big Ten. Now, he is relatively unproven, so I don't know where they're getting this from, whether it must be just from high school pedigree. But keep an eye out for Michigan State. I don't know if they're going to do well this year, but I think they can shock some people with the results.
Yeah, we'll see for sure. Moving on, we got Minnesota. Over under.
Minnesota.
What'd you say, eh? Over under 5.5, eh? Last year they finished the season.
There we go.
They finished last year 6-7, eh? They're gonna be rocking with University of New Hampshire transfer quarterback Max Brosmer, and he actually led the FCS in total offense and passing yards in 2023. So he's actually not a bad quarterback. Minnesota, one of the toughest schedules in the Big Ten. They play teams like North Carolina, USC, Wisconsin, Penn State, Iowa, Michigan, and just, those guys. So they enter with low expectations as they try to rebound with PJ Fleck. If they don't have another good season, he might be out the door. He might not be rowing any more boats after this year if he doesn't do good. So
I agree.
We'll see. The only part I'm interested about this team is that quarterback and how he plays, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean he's unproven at the FBS level just because he hasn't played. But New Hampshire did go 6-5 last year, so it's not like he was lighting up. He wasn't lighting up the FCS.
Damn! I thought they were okay. Never mind.
I'm curious to see how Max performs as well, but PJ Fleck has to get back to his philosophy, his MO, which is defense. Their defense needs to be better than it was last year. And they have the schedule to do it. They have the 45th strength of schedule, 41st. That's about, I would say, 5th best schedule in the Big Ten. Not bad. But yeah, PJ Fleck needs to row to some victories, or else he's going to be rowing to his 5-bedroom, 4-bath estate in Minnesota, or wherever the fuck he's from.
Yeah, so it's row or sink for PJ Fleck this year.
Which sink means he just goes home to his hot wife and children who love him.
Yeah.
And he gets to retire happily ever after. So it's not that bad.
It's
not that big of a deal regardless.
That's for sure. All right, moving on. We got Nebraska. Over under 7.5 wins is the line. Last year they finished the season 5-7. This is going to be Matt Rule's second year as the head coach. They returned 8 starters on defense. A defense that only allowed 18 points a game last year. They have
Solid.
a 5-star freshman coming in quarterback Dylan Raiola with improvements at the receiving core. And they can potentially start 7-0 up until they play Ohio State, just looking at their schedule. So,
OH.
So this is the Nebraska team. They're going to come in with some hype like they usually do. But the hype might be real this time. So we'll see what happens with this team.
I like that. I will say PJ Fleck has been very underwhelming in the transfer portal so far, or thus far, in his second college football tenure. They were amongst the worst in the Big Ten in transfer. They have Jamal Banks. He's the only noteworthy transfer from Wake Forest. He's the only player that I recognize the name. They didn't lose a lot of players in the transfer portal because they have a relatively solid team. I mean, I think the outlook for this team is they need to be bowl eligible this year, and they need to probably push for 8 wins. I think it's manageable for this Nebraska team. It's all going to depend on the whole weight of, where are they from? Nebraska. Lincoln. The whole entire weight of Lincoln, Nebraska is going to be on this poor 18-year-old kid to lead them to stardom.
True freshman.
Now, he was damn good. He was damn good in high school, man. A lot of the top QB analysts were talking heavy about this guy because he was supposed to go to Ohio State. He flipped to Nebraska last minute. This kid, Matt Hasselbeck, is all over this kid. And Matt Hasselbeck was a good,
Scout?
NFL QB.
Oh.
And he's a good scout. He's like the Gruden of today's day with QBs. I'm high on Nebraska, but it's all going to depend on that kid, man. It sucks. It sucks to have the weight of the world on you, but he's gonna mature fast. Whether or not this year's gonna be his year, but he's gonna prosper from this year regardless.
Moving on, we got Northwestern, not the bank, but the college. I think there's a bank called Northwestern.
First of all, it's the credit union.
What?
It's fine. It's Northwestern Mutual Credit Union.
Yeah, so we got Northwestern, the college.
Oh no, it might be a bank.
Not the bank.
It might be a bank. Oh,
I don't know. Are they teaching you this?
No.
Come on. Whatever.
It's a bank. It's a bank. I'm sorry.
All right, whatever. Their over-unders line is set at 5.5. Last year they finished the season 8-5. They ranked number 1 in defensive returning production per ESPN, which is surprising after the whatever happens to that school. You know, all that controversy. They fired the coach. They ended up hiring their interim coach there, and they're still able to rank number 1 in defensive returning production. Maybe so. Their starting quarterback from last year transferred to Iowa. So this team,
yikes.
Yeah, I mean. Defense might be there. I mean, their non-conference games aren't that crazy either. They play in Miami of Ohio. You got maybe a sneaky Duke team there. But again, they play Eastern Illinois, and then maybe they can upset some of the Big Ten teams there. We'll see. But I don't really know what to expect from this Northwestern team. What you got?
What I have is their transfer portal and recruiting class are both 17 in the Big Ten. Which, I don't know if you're good with numbers here, but that is second to last. So that means they need to pray on they they need to hope and pray that their returning starters are good and have progressed enough. Because 8-5 is decent. Do I think they're going to get 8-5 this year? No, not a chance. Yeah. Especially not with Ryan Helinski as their starting quarterback, who has been at Northwestern, I think, his whole career. He's just been riding the bench. So this is his time. Actually, no, I'm gonna stop myself there. He started, I think, his freshman year, performed poorly, so then he got demoted to the bench. And now for his last collegiate football season, he is the starter and he is the main man of Northwestern. So this could be a 30 for 30 right here if he does well.
Yeah.
Going from hero to zero, back to hero, and leading Northwestern to a bowl game, that's a win for them. I think 7 wins is what they need to strive for this year.
All right, cool. Next, we got Ohio State. Go OH.
IO.
Their over-under set at 10.5 wins. Last year, they finished 12-2. Now, this Ohio State, they have high expectations coming in this year. They are one of the favorites to win the Big Ten. And they also have one of the highest win-loss lines set on them out of the whole FBS. They're going to have Will Howard at quarterback. They're going to have potential top 5 defense and 2 of the best receivers. And they have one of the highest RB rooms, too. So this team is definitely stacked. But, I mean, they're going all in this year. Their toughest game this year is most likely going to be Oregon, just because they play at Oregon. But other than that, I mean, they still play that Michigan game yearly. But this Ohio State team, not to give early predictions, but they might be a little bit too much for them this year.
No, I agree. Just looking at their transfers, they had 25 players who transferred out and only 7 incoming transfers. And get this, they are second in the conference. And I believe the transfer portal rankings takes into effect incoming and outgoing. So that the 7 players that they have coming in are insane. I mean, we got Caleb Downs, who started every game for Bama, safety. Quinshawn Judkins, starting running back from Ole Miss. Seth McLaughlin, guard out of Bama. They have Will Howard, who's stepping in from Kansas State. This team looks really good. I think Ryan Day has so much to prove this year. I mean, he shouldn't be on the hot seat, but just because of how high Ohio State's pedigree is, he might be on the hot seat this year if he doesn't get back to the playoff. I know that's crazy to say, but I don't think Ohio State's their boosters are messing around. I think they want a championship this year, and they have the roster to get it. It's all going to hinge on Ryan Day and how he can bounce back this year. That's it for me, man. I like this team a lot. There's not much to say with them. I think they should be top 2. It's just they got to go out there and perform.
Yeah, they're for sure top 2, and they might not even be 2 at that. And it was crazy to think Ryan Day is going to be at the hot seat. That just shows the high expectations the Ohio State team has.
Yep.
All right. So with that, we're going to move on. Next, we got Oregon. Over under?
Quack, quack.
Quack, quack. Over under 10.5 wins. Last year they finished the season 12-2. With those 2 losses coming from the national championship runner-ups in Washington, so they had a pretty good team last year. And then they lose Bo Nix, but they have a top 10 recruiting class. They brought in Dylan Gabriel, a quarterback from Oklahoma, a wide receiver in Evan Stewart, and quarterback Jabbar Muhammad, and some other top talents added. So they play Michigan, Ohio State, and Wisconsin. Those could definitely be their toughest game this year. But if they can get past maybe 2 of the 3, I mean, this team is gonna be fun to watch. I mean, I love Dan Lanning as a coach. I think he's a great coach. He's able to rally his players, and I respect that. And they got a great quarterback in Dylan Gabriel, one of the top college football quarterbacks this year, and a potential Heisman candidate this year. So this game is gonna be a fun watch. I'm very interested in how they do. I mean, for me, it's definitely like Oregon and Ohio State at the top.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And please, everyone, for the love of God, mark October 12th on your calendar. That is going to be a fucking game. Mark it. Game day's going there no matter what. I don't care. I don't care if both teams have 3 losses. That game will be on College Game Day no matter what. That arguably the top 2 teams in the nation are playing each other that day. That's gonna be a 7:30 game on ABC with Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit.
For sure.
Oregon has a shit ton of players coming in. They didn't lose many of any players from the transfer portal. I love this Oregon team. I'm so glad. I'm so happy to see them in the Big Ten because I want to see their defense get tested. And I think I think the Big Ten teams have a good enough. I want to see how their offense performs against Big Ten defenses. Sorry, I flipped that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most interesting part for me this year. Dan Lanning, he's a defensive head coach, but their offense was fucking incredible last year.
Yeah.
Their quarterback Dylan Gabriel, this is his last collegiate season as well, and he wants to end with the championship. And I think he has the cast around him to put up unbelievable numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Go Ducks, baby.
And that's the great thing with this new college football playoff format. Even if one of these teams have 1 or 2 losses, they still have a chance to make the playoffs. And who wouldn't want to see Oregon and Ohio State in the playoffs? That would be insane. And like you said, I'm very interested to see how this defense holds up in the Big Ten. So.
And I know I'm jumping the gun here because we're going to make a whole video based on the college football playoff and our predictions.
Mm-hmm.
But can you imagine in a world where, say, Ohio State loses to Oregon and they lose to Penn State this year? And their 2 losses, they're not missing the playoffs. It's a 12-team pool. They're not missing the playoffs with 2 losses. So then that means they're going to have to play away from home in the first round of the playoffs against, say, an Ole Miss or a Tennessee Volunteers. Can you imagine the hype for that game on December 12th when Tennessee has to play Ohio State in the first round of the college football playoff?
Yeah.
That's the kind of scenarios that we're up against this year, and I can't wait, man.
Yeah. Those will be tough, but those are pretty fun scenarios. So, all right. Moving on. We got Penn State. Over under 9.5 wins. Last year they finished the season 10-3. Now this is a team that consistently does good, but they always fail to get over the hump. So will they get over the hump this year? Historically speaking, if you look at their past season with James Franklin, you'd probably say no. But this defense, they have a top defense led by Abdul Carter, a linebacker turned edge rusher. They upgraded offensive coordinator by adding Andy Kotelnicki, or however you say his name, from Kansas. So they're hoping that he will have the same effect on Drew Aller as he did on Jaden Daniels. So, yeah. So this team, they got promise. The only concern is they have concerns with the receivers and the consistency of Drew Aller. So we'll see if he's really that 5-star quarterback that had all that hype. Because Penn State, they're going to have to get over that hump eventually. I mean, and the toughest game
I agree.
For this team is going to be Ohio State at Ohio State. But all the other games should be winnable for them. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I with how these programs operate, I wouldn't be surprised if James Franklin's on the hot seat if they don't make it to the playoffs.
Yep, I agree. I mean, the boosters can only take so many 3-loss seasons. In Penn State, I believe this has got to be their 3rd straight 3-loss turnaround. I don't know what's going on with Penn State, but they can never beat Michigan, Ohio State, and then they perform poorly in the bowl game, or they drop a game against Iowa or Purdue. It's one of those 2 teams. They need to eliminate that 3rd unnecessary loss. If they're going to lose 2 matches against 2 top-tier Big Ten schools, fine. You're always going to be what we call in the UFC world a gatekeeper for the elite teams. That's fine, but you need to hold yourself to 2 losses. You cannot give up that pivotal 3rd loss, especially with the 12-team playoff coming. Penn State has a chance if they keep it to 2. I'm high on Drew Aller. I like him. I think the bowl game set people off from him. He performed very well this season. He did poorly against, I want to say it was Michigan, and then performed well against Ohio State. But the bowl game against, I think it was Ole Miss, he did terribly in that bowl game. And that's what's setting people off this year. Let's remember, guys, he's a sophomore. He's got so much room for growth. And I think if he takes a step up, which I think he will, Penn State's looking pretty dangerous with how their defense has been looking the last few years.
Yeah, and I agree. So, moving on, we got Purdue, the Boilermakers. Their line is set at 4.5 wins, and that shows the expectations they have this year. Matching their season from last year, as they only won 4 games and lost 8 last year. But, again, they have a tough schedule. They had to play Notre Dame, Wisconsin, Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, these big top-tier Big Ten teams, and it's not going to be a fun season for them. And they lost their best player, too. They lost their wide receiver, Deion Burks, who went to Oklahoma. They're underdogs or coin flip favorites in 11 out of the 12 games they play this year. So it's going to be like, I just wait for next year, man. I mean, I don't know. This might just be typical Purdue football here.
I don't think so. I do not think Purdue has a chance this year. I was really high on Hudson Card last year, the transfer from Texas.
Yeah.
And just like Luke Altmaier, just didn't perform up to what I thought they were, standard-wise. Hudson Card, he needs to step up this year if they have any chance. Their defense was shit last year. Their offense was mediocre. If they can just keep their offense going the way it was and tune up that defense just a touch, they might be fine. But get this, they have the 7th worst strength of schedule in all of college football. That's not looking good for them.
Yeah.
That's a formidable schedule. And when you have a formidable schedule with a mediocre team, you know what you get?
Why?
3 wins. Move on.
Low expectations for Purdue here. Moving on, we got Rutgers. Over under 6.5. Last year, they finished the season 7-6. They have former Gopher quarterback Athan Kaliakmanis. What is up with these college football names? God.
You know what I call him?
What?
The Greek Freak.
All right, you got former Gopher quarterback Greek Freak here. Dude, why can't they all be like General Booty?
What's this guy's name? Kakliamanis or something like that?
Kakliamanis, something like that. Whatever. This team returns 8 defensive starters, allowed less than 22 points per game, and they don't have a bad schedule. So I mean, they can they'll probably rise the ranks as the top, maybe mid Big Ten team. They're not gonna compete with the big dogs, that's for sure. But it doesn't matter who the quarterback's name is because their defense is probably doing all the work anyways. So I don't know. What do you got?
I've been a fanboy of the Rutgers Scarlet Knights for way too long. I don't know why I love them so much. I think it goes back to my NCAA 14 days when I was playing with them in Dynasty mode. Because in 2014, they were the worst team. I think that's the only reason I have such a love for this school. I don't know why, but every time they play Ohio State, and Matt can attest to this, I text him and say, Ohio State on upset alert. And you know what happens? Rutgers plays well for 5 minutes, and I am screaming. I'm going crazy. I'm so happy. And then they get knocked back into reality and lose 45-10.
Yep.
There's just something about the Rutgers Scarlet Knights that resonate with me. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm 5'9", And I'm not 6 foot, but I want to be 6 foot. You know, Rutgers, they want to be at the top, but they'll never get there. I think that's probably where it goes. It's more of a mindset thing. Call me Andrew Tate, baby.
You're 6 foot in heart.
That being said,
Like
they have the lightest strength of schedule out of all the Big Ten. Let's go, Scarlet Knights. I hope they get bowl eligibility because I fucking love this team.
Yeah, I mean, I would say they got a great chance. They play like what? They got Howard. They play Akon. I didn't know he played football. Just kidding. Akron. They got Minnesota. Greek Freak Revenge game. Minnesota. And then they got the Sparties. So I mean, they got a chance there making bowl eligibility. It'll be an interesting watch there, and I can't wait to see your Rutgers upset picks again.
Of course.
All right. Moving on, we got UCLA. Now, surprisingly, their over/under win-loss is set at 5.5. Last year they finished 8-5.
Not surprising at all.
Yeah, and like you said, it's probably not that surprising. I think they lost their top talents to either the NFL or the transfer portal. And I did see something on. It was like they had a solid defense, but they lost either all that good defense players to either the NFL or they transferred to USC. So that was pretty funny. They're gonna have a first-time head coach in Deshaun Foster, and we'll see how they handle the Big Ten. I mean, this year is gonna be telling and how this program is gonna go in the future. So, I mean, they still have the big name behind them. You know, they used to be successful, especially in the Pac-12. But now that they're out of the Pac-12, we'll see where this program goes. So I'm very interested to see where this program goes in the future.
Ah, man, this team drove away arguably one of the best high school recruits that we've seen in a while, Dante Moore. They drove him out of there. Now, Dante Moore, he wasn't necessarily the most available player last year, but my God, you got to keep a talent like that. And you know what they did?
Drove him out.
They let him go straight to Oregon Ducks laps. So now Oregon gets to develop them and reap off the benefits for another 3 years because Dylan Gabriel's their starter. But Ethan Garbers, this is his team, man. He did well last year. He performed above average, above expectations. Do I think he's going to keep that going? Not with the Big Ten, the way their defenses operate. I think he's going to see a completely different defensive philosophy, and it's going to throw him off. It's going to stunt his growth. They have a new head coach, like you said. I already forgot the one guy's name. You know his name?
From last year?
Head coach last year?
Chip Kelly.
Yeah, last year. Chip Kelly, damn it. Chip Kelly, he's just going to be known as a good head coach that can never get his team over the hump. UCLA had the worst recruiting class in the Big Ten, had a pretty shitty transfer portal as well. They retained 12 players this year. I mean, I don't know, man. I think 5.5 is pretty respectable for them this year.
Yeah, tough line. Moving on. We got another California team, USC. Over under?
California. No time to party.
Over under set at 7.5. Last year they finished the season 8-5.
You're supposed to have my back there.
What a performance!
Just let me sit.
Can we give a hint to Rhett? That's like
You were supposed to have my back there, and you didn't. You just let me sing all alone there.
So USC, we're back to California, and California. I got your back.
Thank you.
All right. Anyways, this team, they got an improved coaching staff. You know why?
Oh boy.
Do you know why?
No, I don't.
Because they got rid of that stupid defensive coordinator who had the worst defense ever, I swear. Year after year, they let Caleb Williams down. That poor guy had to score 50 points a game to win games. That was insane. Whatever. So just by process of elimination, this defense has to be better, right? We'll see. I don't know.
I guess, dude.
They got tough games at home. They got to play teams like Michigan, Wisconsin, Penn State, Notre Dame at home. Quarterback will automatically be a downgrade no matter who it is because it's going to be tough to follow Caleb Williams unless he's the next star or whatever. So we'll see. The chances of that is not very likely. But the defense also has to be upgraded just because they got rid of whoever that defensive coordinator was. So, automatic improvement there. But automatic downgrade at quarterback. Tough schedule. Also playing LSU as one of their non-conference games. USC, this might not be their year. They're going to be probably in the middle of the pack, the Big Ten. I mean, I don't know how they're going to compete with these top teams. I mean, they're still that big name school. So I wouldn't be surprised if they still made noise. But I don't know, man. I can see 7-win season for them. That's what I have for them.
USC might have the best quarterback room in the country. Now, before you guys throw tomatoes at me, let me explain myself. You have Malachi Nelson, true freshman coming in, or not true freshman, redshirt freshman coming in, was one of the best recruits out of high school in Southern California. He's a homegrown kid. I don't know if he's got the skills this year to start because Miller Moss, I don't know if you remember, last year in the Holiday Bowl, he fucking lit up Louisville, who had arguably one of the best defenses in the league. So they have Miller Moss competing for the starting position, and then you have Jaden Maiva from UNLV.
You got it.
He was the quarterback who he lit up the scoreboard last year in the Mountain West Conference. He has transferred to USC as well. So they got quite a bit of a quarterback competition this year. Do I think USC is going to do well this year? I think so. It's going to come down to who starts at quarterback and who is the right fit for them.
Yeah.
I think Jaden Maiva. I'm going to go with Maiva. Okay. Final answer. Jaden Maiva's he's not a dual threat quarterback. He's more of a pocket threat. Malachi Nelson's dual threat, and then Miller Moss is a pocket passer as well. I don't know if that fits USC's philosophy.
Yeah.
It's going to depend on, is it still Lincoln Riley?
Yeah.
Is he still the coach? Okay, so Lincoln Riley likes more of a dual threat QB, which makes me lean towards Malachi Nelson starting. I think this team is very interesting, and we're gonna find out who they are right away. Right? Who'd you say they play?
LSU.
Yeah, we're gonna find out right away how good they are against LSU.
Yeah, and just if their offensive line is like anything from last year, they're gonna need a mobile quarterback. Moving on, next team. The national championship runner-ups, Washington Huskies. Now, this won't be the same team from last year. The line is set at 7.5 wins. But last year, they finished the season 14-1. They're coming off a national championship loss. They got zero offensive starters back. And that defense is pretty gutted, too. But, bright side, you're going to have Will Rogers at quarterback. He's probably one of the better sided quarterbacks in college football right now. And to be completely honest with you, I have no idea what to think of this team. As most of this team is going to be like, replacing these guys. That went crazy last year. So, I mean, I don't know. I want to say went crazy in the transfer portal, getting other starters. I just don't know what to think of this team.
Well, I can tell you the transfer portal ranking was 3rd in the conference. They did bring in some weapons.
So they did reload.
I don't know who the weapons are at my disposal. I don't know. But just based on that ranking, I'm sure they've improved some pieces that they lost. Now, they had 5 returning starters, and I think one of them's their kicker.
Sure.
Oh, God.
They'll take it.
Will Rogers was very good at Mississippi State for 2 years, and then last year he took a little bit of a step back. But I think that's just because the SEC was fucking stacked.
Yeah.
I think Will Rogers is a very competent quarterback, and we'll see how well he performs in the Big Ten. I do want to amend something real quick. I'm sorry, USC fans. Malachi Nelson went to Boise State. I'm sorry. ESPN doesn't update their fucking website, so I assume they had Malachi Nelson because it said Malachi. But Boise State, great addition. Sorry. Washington, I don't know. They'll be bowl eligible, but they're not going to compete in the Big Ten this year.
Yeah. That's just, yeah. I mean, Washington, they're a program, but the Big Ten, it's going to be tough for these Pac-12 teams. except if you're not Oregon, of course. So,
Yeah.
moving on, we got our last Big Ten team, Wisconsin. Surprisingly, their over/under line is set at 6.5 wins. Last year they finished 7-6.
Whoa.
Yeah, it looks like they won't have a lot of hype coming in the season with. They got Tyler Van Dyke at quarterback from Miami. So
that's why.
Yeah, that explains why now. They added some defensive pieces to this team, but they got a pretty tough schedule. I mean, one of their non-conference games is Alabama, and they got to play.
Oh shit!
Exactly. So, and they also got to play Penn State, Oregon, and Iowa, and some of the other Big Ten guys. So I can see why this line is set pretty low. So, and
God.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one for you Wisconsin fans.
Oh my God.
Is my prediction, anyways.
Jesus. I'm scanning their transfer portal auditions, and they have a linebacker with the last name Cheeks. That's hilarious.
That's a win.
I hope he starts.
That's an automatic win. They start the season 1-0.
If Homeboy starts on this team and becomes an impact player, I might buy a jersey. Don't hold me to it, but I might buy that jersey. Depending on his number, too. If he's 00, that would be hilarious.
Well, what if he's 69 and he's absolute Cheeks? His jersey is a must.
We're both buying jerseys.
we have to wear it on the next time we do a college football show.
Hey, I'm fine with it if you are. I love Wisconsin. They're kind of like a Rutgers to me, only because in NCAA 14 they had Monte Ball, and he was sweaty as all sweat could be in that game. I think he was so overpowered in that game. I remember playing my brother, and I would run for 500 yards a game, and he would score 8 touchdowns. So just because of that sentiment, I want Wisconsin to do well every year. But because you just listed out their schedule, and it's pretty treacherous, my friend.
Yes.
It's not looking good for them. I hope they become bowl eligible, but I said I want every team in this conference to be bowl eligible besides 3, which just isn't going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So when I do my predictions, I'm going to have to make some hard decisions in life. But as of right now, I want Wisconsin to win 8.
8. That's a good number.
It's not going to happen, but I want them to.
Yeah. But we'll see. And as I look at their schedule, why the hell are ticket prices as low as $411 for Northwestern Wisconsin? That's the most
It's got to be in a different country.
That's the most random. No, it's at Wisconsin, I think. What the? Northwestern versus Duke is $336.
Jesus. It's at Northwestern, by the way.
Yeah. Okay, so it's at Northwestern. And I don't know if you know this, but Northwestern is playing at their practice field this season because they're building a new stadium.
No.
Maybe that's why.
That's awesome. It might be. They have 10 tickets.
Well, 10 tickets. Limited edition.
That's incredible. They got to get their revenue up somehow, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's literally in Northwestern.
Dude, what is up with...
Who wants to go spend...
Dude, Duke versus Northwestern is like $300.
Dog, we need to pay $300 to go sit in Evanston, Illinois, and watch Northwestern play at their practice facility.
We gotta see what this hype is about.
We need this channel to blow up so we can afford these tickets, and we will go.
Yeah.
We will make a Reese football trip. Dan will chaperone, and we'll watch Northwestern play at their practice facility.
Subscribe to the channel, like the video, get us successful, and we will go to a Northwestern game at their practice facility.
Yes, we will. I promise.
All right. That wraps up the Big Ten preview.
Jesus.
Just to top it all off, you got your usual top dogs. In Michigan, Ohio State, you got some new dogs in there. Oregon, they're definitely the favorites. If I were to give like a dark horse for this conference, it'll probably honestly be Iowa. Maybe.
Yep.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, I'll give Iowa.
There we go.
Other than that, maybe USC can make some noise. You said they got a Some
Yeah.
some good quarterbacks in there, and as long as they fix that defense and offensive line, they might be able to compete. So, anything else you want to add for the final recap?
Final recap. I am very excited for this Big Ten season, and we got some new dogs that we needed. The Big Ten needed a makeover, and they got just the teams to do it. Like you said, Oregon, UCLA, USC, Washington. These teams come with a different set of pedigree that they're bringing to the Big Ten. Now, is it the pedigree that the Big Ten's known for? No. But they're going to have to, it's just like when the Big 12 expanded 10 years ago. They became an air raid set conference. I think this is going to shape the Big Ten conference, and it's going to change them forever, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
For sure. I mean, having this Pac-12 teams in Big Ten is going to definitely force them to invest in their defenses. So, I'm very interested how these programs develop over the years. So, with all that said, this concludes the video. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for next week where we cover another big Power 4 conference. So, catch you guys next week. Peace.